All right, Freight Nation. Welcome back to another episode of Freight Nation, a podcast by Truckstop. And this is a part of our educational series on one of the most challenging topics that freight's ever seen. I've been around freight for 26 years and I've been through a lot of things, and I've never seen a marketplace more challenging than now. And I'm not just talking about the rate recession that we've had since the pandemic. I'm talking about the F word, the other F word, the fraud word that's in the marketplace. And so Truckstop takes this very seriously. And we're thankful that you've joined us today to learn a bit more about fraud in the marketplace. Uh, what what started it? Why does it continue? Where are some of the areas in which it's continuing to attack? What are some of the solutions? We'll talk through that as well today, and then we'll talk about future case or future stance in the marketplace, because fraud's not going to be going away. And we'll talk a lot about why that's going to happen too. So joining me today is one of my great friends at Truckstop, Mr. Shawn Rasmor, and that's Shawn with an SHWN. And he is a principal product manager, and his principal focus is on our fraud prevention products. And so he's been the guy that's been digging in, understanding, trying to create good technical barriers for the bad players to stay out of the marketplace and to protect you. And so, Shawn, thank you so much for joining me on Freight Nation today. I've been excited to have you on. Shawn and I have a great, to Freight Nation, Shawn and I have a great relationship. You'll see us talking back and forth like a couple of good friends, which we are. But I lean on him anytime I need to know more about what's going on in fraud and how we're working towards helping defeat that in the marketplace, or helping to work against it in the marketplace. I talk to Shawn because he's had such deep knowledge into it and has a passion, a real passion for protecting all the players, the carriers, the brokers, and the shippers in this marketplace. So, Shawn, thank you again for joining me on Freight Nation today.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. I'm excited to be here and help the community here, help the industry. This is a situation that requires all of us to be extra vigilant. Whether you're a technology provider, you're a broker, you're a carrier, everybody is involved in helping make this a safe market, so we can all be successful.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you saying it's going to take all of us, because I know that when all the fraud started, Shawn, and is that a lot of people looked at the major players in the marketplace. They looked at load boards like Truckstop and one of our competitors and other competitors in the marketplace, and they really said, "Oh, that's where the problem is," and they didn't realize that the problem has invaded all parts of trucking. And it's not on load boards. It's not just on load boards. It's on everybody that moves freight. If you have a piece of data in the marketplace, if you get an email, if you get a text message, if you're out there looking for freight on all the multitudes of platforms, whether they be open marketplaces like Truckstop, or whether they be private marketplaces like the brokers have out there and other players have out in the marketplace, then you have the opportunity for your data to be compromised, and for you to be the victim of a fraudulent activity in the marketplace. So, Shawn, talk a little bit about that, about how it really is. It's all the market. It's not focused in one area, just in one area.
Yeah, there's a misnomer on the surface area for where fraud can occur, and really, it's every touch point. And if you think outside of transportation, just your day-to-day lives, you get a text message, you get an email, anything around that where they're trying to compromise your identity and get access to your financial funds personally. Well, they're doing the same thing, but with freight. They're trying to get access to that load. They're trying to compromise the identity of an existing carrier, or they're changing their tactics on that. Before, they would go and create a new carrier out there. They'd register carriers, and so the industry would create provisions and around the age of authority or other tactics. Well, they're learning and adapting continuously, and they're hitting people not on only load boards and those areas, but through emails, through trying to get a hold of your people, your employees, and take advantage of lapses in say judgment. But it's difficult because it's difficult to identify a bad actor when something comes in, and who is the bad actor, who is a legitimate carrier. But it's every area: a phone call, an email, however your teams are getting contacted. They need to be extra vigilant on and looking for signals, which are becoming harder and harder.
It seems like, Shawn, I know a few years back, Even a company like Truckstop, we were suspect to cyber security a compromise in our system, and so even somebody who had great cybersecurity, we were attacked with a ransomware attack, and so it was a very difficult thing for us to get through. And I think about the cybersecurity in this marketplace, and so you were talking about all the ways in which data is being used for our marketplace to work more efficiently, but that opens doors in a lot of places for this data to be compromised. Talk a little bit about that aspect of how fraud attacked this market.
Yeah, to talk about the opportunity, and there's a variety of situations here, and so part of it is ease of access. It's technology. Like, what kind of technology do you have in place? And we, a lot of the things we try to make it frictionless, make it easy for our people. If I'm a broker, for my teams to be able to operate, easy for carriers to be able to onboard, to come through processes. How do we make it simple? Well, if it's simple for your employees or simple for a carrier, it's simple for a bad actor to compromise that system. And so they're finding ways within there. And so now we're adding more and more security, more provisions in place, which then you got to balance it. Because if you make it Fort Knox, you can't do business. So how do you add the right levels within there? But it's not just the technology. It's people, it's processes, and the technology. These things all go hand in hand, and how you utilize it ultimately comes down to your people and how they're working. And you talked about within Truckstop, the situation we had that was on an IT level or technology level, but even within the marketplace, our assurance team, which Truckstop has an assurance team, has been around since 2003.
Now you said assurance, not insurance. Now
Not
assurance.
assurance, assurance with an A. And within that, they have a security team that
Yeah.
is continuously monitoring our systems, not from a technology IT information security standpoint, but from a marketplace security standpoint. And they handle fraud complaints and double brokering complaints coming in from our community, as well as monitoring other situations within that. But they have a term of Fraud Friday, and this is when you talk about when do bad actors attack, which at any time, and from an opportunity standpoint, they'll try and hit you at a point of weakness. When people want to go on vacation, they're opportunists. Their business is making money off of other people. And so trying to attack, looking at, okay, they're going to hit on a Friday. They're going to hit on a Friday before a 3-day weekend. Because when you want to go home, you're going to want to make a decision faster. And so again, down to that person level and then layering that with technology, with processes and protocols to help provide guardrails. And because if the guardrails are too tight, your teams can't operate effectively.
For sure. So we're getting down into sort of the operational part of this. Let's talk about that more in just a few minutes, because I want to talk about a lot of the question about this, Shawn, that I get and you get is, why is this happening? And so I always like to know the why. And Freight Nation, I'm always love to know the why out there, the why this is happening. And there's a couple of things, and some of them seem very obvious, but let me just state what they are. Number one, you're in an economy, you're in a marketplace that measures itself in the trillions of dollars. Where there is a lot of money, the bad actors will go after it. Second, in the last decade, there's been a tremendous amount of investment dollars put into transportation because it's a growing economy. It's a growing field for people to make business success for themselves, whether you're a broker, whether you're a carrier, whether you're a shipper, whether you're a technology platform. So there's been tremendous investment into it. So there's the bad actors, they watch where the investment money goes. And then they look for weaknesses in the automation or weaknesses in the data, weaknesses in the technology where they can attack, because they can attack from a long way away and you never see them coming. So Shawn, talk about those three things. Then I want you to show the Freight Nation watchers and listeners the graphic on the impact that we've had.
Yeah. So great points there. And part of this also, when you think about pirates, this is pirates of the expressway, pirates in the water, and there's also prosecution. So how easily can someone who has been caught be prosecuted? So this is some of this as well. They're looking as, okay, when we do this, and it's handled as it's cargo theft. It's a cargo claim. So trying to get local and federal, especially federal prosecution, it's challenging. There's a lot of things. This is what Truckstop we've been working closely with, both at the federal and at the local levels there. But from a technology standpoint, this is one of the things when I joined Truckstop 8 years ago. Is this is an industry ripe for digitalization,
Helps with efficiency. Helps you make more money. Right.
but companies are slow to adopt these efficiencies. The bad actors are not. They're out there. They're adopting technologies. They're adopting artificial intelligence, ways to be able to mask their identity. That's a key thing here. As we talk about some of the indicators of this, is hiding. And they're getting more and more sophisticated and organized around hiding themselves. And so that's some of the things that we're continuing to look at here. But it's around opportunity from ease of access, opportunity from an access from a technology or process standpoint, but also access from a behavioral standpoint of people. Are they watching for this? Do they have policies and protocols in place or technology in place on top of that to help protect themselves against it? So they're looking for those unlocked doors, looking for the dark alleys, ways to be able to hide. And you may say, well, we have everything lit, but if you aren't looking, it's a dark alley. They can go and sneak around.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you bringing that up, because one of the things that in the beginning of this fraud thing, it was like there was a lot of pointing at the load boards, and load boards have responsibility to protect their customers and the marketplace against that. And so Freight Nation, the reason I bring this up is that when you think about a truck stop as a marketplace, I'm just using as an example. It's easier for us to lock down our marketplace and protect it because we have control of all of it, but we don't have control of your activity, Mr. Carrier or Mr. Broker or Miss Carrier or Miss Broker. We don't have control on where you go outside of the network and then what you bring into the network. And so there's the controls. And this is why I made a point. I asked Shawn to talk about this, is that in order for fraud for us to help decrease it, it's going to take every player in the market having a cybersecurity policy and having a cybersecurity team in this to be able to get checks and balances. So Shawn, show the Freight Nation watchers and today. The watchers will get to see this. The listeners, you just have to go through the audio part of it, but show them what we've seen since before 2008, the Great Recession, right? So what we've seen from a standpoint of fraud in the marketplace, and because it's really eye-opening.
I'm going to switch this real quick. So while I'm bringing this up, it's one of the things I'll show here in the graphic is it follows the economy a lot, what we're seeing. And I talked about opportunities within here. And so there's opportunities. Let me share here the screen. All right. As you see here right now, 2023, you had a large spike. Tremendous. We all felt this.
Just so you know, Freight Nation, it started in October of 2022. The reason it looks low, so much lower in 22, is that really all that height, October 22 is when it started. That's when the market had transitioned all the way back down to normal, the normal amount of freight in the marketplace.
And these are reports of fraud to our assurance team that we handled, and we verified. That's one of the things that's important on the reports that we handle is our complaints team verify the complaint, verify with both parties. And so these have been verified reports of fraud, whether double brokering, stolen loads, things like that. So within our marketplace, and you see that surge. And as you mentioned, October, there were indications because double brokering, stolen loads, it's been around. And as you see, you've had them throughout the decades. But there were some indications in the fall, a couple indications. And then around the November, December time frame, it surged. We started seeing different signals than ever before. And we immediately started jumping to making changes on our side here. But if you look back further in this, I mentioned following the market, following the economy. The last time there was a spike, which not to the levels we're seeing now, but was in 2009. That was the last economic recession.
Yeah, and that's the Great Recession when there was, and you brought this up, and Freight Nation, I want to make sure that I hit this again. It's when it's harder. It's when we have a greater need that maybe we're not doing as many checks and balances. Maybe we saw a great rate and we said, I got to take it right now. And then you don't do all the checks and balances on the vetting of the information that you normally might do. And you get stung by a fraudulent activity. So you can't get outside the human nature and things. You can try as much as you want, but human nature, you have to follow along the lines on that. So continue on, Shawn.
Yeah, well, and it's a great point because you have people facing hardships, looking for ways of helping their families, and so the bad actor side as well. They're taking advantage of that, trying to find ways of handling it. Now, there's questions I get on, well, when the economy changes, are we going? It starts to get shifting the direction. Are we going to see this go down? Like you could see some changes, but I think bad actors, it's like blood in the water. Sharks attacking. They've found how easy this is right now.
Yeah, let me address that with you real quick with Freight Nation. And Shawn, thank you for bringing that. Let me address that with Freight Nation because it's my job to be out there listening to the leaders in the market, the players in the market. So I listen to the big insurance companies. I listen to the people, the technology fraud companies. I work with the Transportation Intermediaries Association, the American Trucking Association, the Truckload Carriers Association, OOIDA. I work with all of them. And let me tell you right now, because of the digital age that we live in, this fraudulent market, this fraudulent activity is not going away quickly. All right. Yes, we're going to mitigate part of it with a continuous effort by all players in the market, but it's not going to go away quickly. And let me tell you why. Just the fraud loss alone in this year is between $500 and $700 million. $500 and $700 million. That's a lot of money that didn't go into people's hands. And it doesn't just affect trucking. It affects the manufacturer of the product. It affects the consumer because they don't have the goods to buy. It affects everyone in this marketplace. Another thing, here's another very important thing. Most people think, oh, it's from a couple of isolated areas. Nope. 22 different countries are attacking our marketplace. The United States is the most successful country in the world. They're going to attack where the money is. Okay. So this is why I bring this up. This is why we're talking about this today. This is why we're going to talk about some of the solutions. But Shawn and I are trying to set the stage today to show you that this is not a small problem. And it's something that we want to help you protect you, but we can't protect your business outside of Truckstop, but we can help give you advice on how to do that. All right. So Shawn, continue on.
Thank you, Brent. And something else here. So we had the surge, there's an influx of new carriers. We talk about how do we get to where we are today? Influx of new carriers that came in 2021, 2022.
And rightfully so, a great market. Everybody was making money, right? Yeah.
And within there, you had authorities being created by bad actors. That was a tactic. They would go and create new authorities out there. They would go and buy 20 authorities. They just put it out there. And so then the countermeasure was, well, I'm not going to accept a carrier that has an authority of less than 6 months, a year. Well, then bad actors would look, and when I talk about bad actor, there's different things here. You have like the double brokers, and you have those who are stealing loads. And actually, a lot of these companies, based upon what you're moving, they're going to either rebroker it or they're going to steal it. So that was these tactics, though. They would go and create the new authorities, and then they let them age out. But still, then you start looking at, do you have inspections? It's like, okay, now people are looking for inspections. We got to make sure we're moving, but they don't have the trucks because they're trying to rebroker. Well, I mentioned the surge of those trucks, the surge of the carriers that are entering the market, and they're trying to hide amongst those. Well, a portion of those carriers haven't survived the market. We had this downturn, flooded. You have more capacity than there is freight going on, so it's very capacity rich. Some of those are going out of business. They used to just go out of business. Now they're being purchased by bad actors out there, and there's networks out there, sites.
You're talking about the purchasing of MC numbers.
Purchasing of MC number, purchasing of the carrier, and it's beyond that. Because before it was just purchasing authority, and people would ask, well, how do you legitimately purchase the DOT? They can get the MC, and well, these are not legitimate transfers of sale. That they're not procuring it above board, and they're not just purchasing their authority information, they're purchasing their identity, because what they're also finding is everyone's putting security in place and with accounts and everything else. Well, bad actors know that they need to have all that information. They need the credentials, they need the emails. So they're getting everything wholesale from these carriers that are out there. And by owning that information, because something else people were looking for was changes in information. So you're looking, and that's one of your measures. Well, if you own the identity, you don't need to change anything. So they know what we're looking for. They know what people are using to try and protect themselves. And they're countering that with various measures, which makes it even more important for your people who are talking, whether it's on the carrier side, same thing on the carrier side, because they're the ones that could be taking a load that they won't get paid for because it's double brokered to them. Also, they could be, if it was double brokered, sent to another location and held hostage because that's not the actual consignee. So both sides get impacted in these situations. And so it's so important to, one, have relationships with each other, talk with each other, and ultimately use your gut. Train your people into use your gut. And there's some things in here when I talk about the transferring of identities over there. Like, how do you detect a bad actor hiding within the clothing of somebody else, looking for signals, looking for, is this too good of a load? Like the price, or are they asking too many questions or not enough questions? There's these things in there. And this is where, again, I mentioned the Fraud Friday. They're attacking you when your guard is down, when you're trying to get through something. And so you got, right now in this climate, everyone needs to have their guard up. They need to be thinking about this, and something doesn't feel right, take a little bit more time.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Freight Nation, I want to talk about this. And thank you, Shawn, for talking about that. So, if someone approaches you to buy your MC number, look, we understand it's not illegal to sell it. Number one, when you sell it, you need to report it to the FMCSA. That's part of the requirement when you do this. It doesn't always happen. And so, if somebody is just pinging you about selling your MC and you're not even interested in selling it, you're probably talking to a fraudulent player in the marketplace. So, and it's because if they can get your identity, and they're not just going to ask to buy your MC number, they're going to want your login information. They're going to want your passwords. They're going to want all this information. Then they're going to be able to go to other places that your password might match that you use somewhere else, because human beings tend to use the same passwords in locations. So there's all kinds of problems about going on the market, because these factors, to Shawn's point, are going to do one thing. They're going to steal your identity, or they're going to buy your identity, and then they're going to hijack it and use it in the marketplace to cause chaos as long as they can. And then they'll get rid of it and disappear, and no one will see them again. So the point is, we all love this industry. We all want to make sure we're protecting this industry. So it's your duty out there to make sure you're protecting as well. We understand it's tough times out there. Just understand that your responsibility of making sure that you're selling it to a legitimate person, because there are people out there that want to buy carrier authorities because it helps them in their marketplace. It helps. So no problem with that. So Shawn, so you were going to say something?
One other thing, you remind me of a situation that we heard about, and you talk about identity, and in one particular case, the criminal, like these aren't just opportunity company businesses wanting to change hands.
This isn't petty theft.
Carrier went out of business, sold their identity. That was used to get access to their bank account, make purchases. And when they were confronted, they threatened the carrier, ex-carrier in this case, and their family. They knew everything about them. And so this is not a good situation. And they think, hey, I hand it off. I'm done with this. I have no use for it anymore. These same entities out there, the text messages, all the scams you think on your emails, like, I'm not going to fall for that. They're attacking through other ways. You just don't recognize it.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point. Freight Nation, this is organized crime, right? It may be international organized crime, but it's organized crime coming at the United States. And so we've actually worked at Truckstop. We've actually worked with the FBI, and they're taking a much more serious look at what's going on in U.S. freight theft. And so we've worked with all the way to the highest levels at the FBI and their regional offices to educate them on how they can help spot it, and then work with the people affected to help to go after the bad actors and then prevent it in the future. There's even on the Truckstop website, you can see we've got a nice blog post on there, the 4 ways you can report and protect yourself to the FBI on freight fraud. So, Shawn, great setup with the problem in the market and some what are the bad actors doing and how they're doing it. So, yeah, I want to talk now. I want to shift in to solutions, because where there's opportunity for people to build products to help those protect their businesses, grow their businesses, then there's been great things. And there's been some really good products coming to the marketplace. And Truckstop certainly takes our responsibility very, very seriously. And here's what I want to say about this, Freight Nation. This thing, because we work in the digital age, we all work in the modern internet age. There have to be checks and balances on everything. I'll give you my quick story that I love to use is I went and rented a U-Haul, a small pull behind that I pulled behind my truck. I was moving one of my kids from home to college. It cost me like $25 for the trailer I was renting from U-Haul. I still had to do multi-factor authentication when I registered my account, and had to do personal identity through my driver's license and through it all had to match. So this is for a $25 purchase. So it is a reality in this world, this digital world we're working, that the ideas of technical solutions to protect you are necessary for you to operate your business. So Shawn, let's talk about solutions, what Truckstop has done, and because I'm very excited about what you're going to be able to show them on the whole, how we're continuing to bring our products to help our customers know they can trust that we're out there to help them in their market.
So TSA, for anyone who's flown, has experienced that. And on the TSA's website, they have this great diagram around layers of security, the things that they do to help protect your safety, whether you're outside the airport, going through the airport. And I love that. And so I adapted it to the things that we're doing here at Truckstop. And there's a variety of different elements, whether you're within our applications or outside of our applications. And I'll kind of talk through these areas here. The first one, we're talking about when they're not within Truckstop. And I'll go into a little more detail on this. This is an exciting space we have here with a tool called Risk Factors. And I'll hit on that, but there's things that we're offering, technology we're offering, that will help you identify risk signals when you don't have to be within our platform with logged into Truckstop. You can use it outside of that. In addition to the other things that we've already talked about on recognizing your identity, understanding that, protecting yourselves. Within Truckstop, I talked about this as well. We have a team that is providing surveillance. We have a lot of technology that's watching for signals. This is going back decades. We have so much information. We've seen the bad actors coming in. Some of them continue to reuse that information. We use that as identifying signals there. When people let us know, we talk about compromised identities. And if carriers or brokers within Truckstop notify us, we're going to take action. We actually post within Truckstop a list of compromised identities that we've been informed on. So we let people know about that. We've kicked out hundreds of bad actors off the load board. When we get made aware of a situation, we're going to look over on RMIS, which is our risk management onboarding platform. We're going to be notifying participants in there. So there's this whole program of folks.
I saw some data the other day from Truckstop that we've either kicked out or refused business or blocked over 7,000 bad actors in the marketplace. Now, some of these are repeats, because they'll pretend to be one person and then they'll get blocked and they'll come in as another person, and we can recognize them really fast. But over 7,000 times. And so that's a number to show you that you have to be vigilant about continuing to stay after it.
Yeah, those chameleons, they keep trying to change, but we have ways of being able to detect them. So we have a lot of those provisions. That's just continuous monitoring we have within there. As I mentioned, when there is a new situation that we couldn't quite figure out, that's where I get involved and others get involved, trying to understand how did it happen, what can we do. So in addition to closing off what happened, then adapting our technologies and tools as well for future identification of that. Back to that, you brought up when you got the U-Haul and you think about the TSA, when they're entering within the system, we talk about like onboarding within RMIS. We're using an identity provider, and we need to check your ID. We need to make sure that you are who you say you are when you're coming in. And so we have provisions in place verifying that you are this person as a human coming in. And then it gets down to the business layer. risk screening. This is an area we're continuing to evolve and grow. And you think about, okay, I go through TSA, they check my ID, and then I go through the X-ray. And that's an area we are heavily invested in finding those signals, the bombs in the briefcase coming through, and trying to find them within our system. We get further in here, something that we pride ourselves in is from a brokerage standpoint, you own your risk. You manage your risk. We want you to be able to set your risk standards, your thresholds as you see fit. And so that it's your network. And so we are helping you protect your network on who's coming in there. So we have elements within there on who can onboard with you, who can't onboard based on various risk protocols and policies, and then the continuous monitoring of your network, who's within there, and keeping that data up to date with it. So it's all these layers that are happening at all the different touch points that we're providing across our systems, and then providing you abilities to override when necessary. So we're adding many elements of security on checking across the system and automating that and adding additional protocols across our application. We have this in, I mentioned the RMIS side. We have security elements within our marketplace. We're working across our whole ecosystem to bring it all together. And with that security also, we have all the data and information. And this is where we're taking that into risk factors. And I'll talk a little bit about that.
Hold on a second before you shift to the new data piece on risk factors. So you got this nice road coming down the middle. On the right hand side, you got it outside the Truckstop marketplace and how they can be protected. Then you've got on the left hand side, you got the inside when you're inside the network. And so you talked about those 3 points on each one of them that have multiple pieces on them. And so tell a little bit, Shawn. This is why is it that we at Truckstop are so concerned about not just the inside when someone's inside of our network, when someone's outside of our network? Tell the Truckstop, the Freight Nation watchers and listeners, why that's so important.
It's critical for you to have visibility and confidence around who you're operating with. Our goal is to help you operate with clear eyes and as much information as possible. And we talk about tactics of the bad actors, they're hiding. And so we're trying to remove some of the facade so you can be able to see that and provide you clarity around who these people are, because really it's all about relationships. That's the critical piece. And these criminals out there are impacting your ability to trust anybody. And both it impacts the carriers as well. You put all these controls in place and the carriers can't operate effectively. So bringing these things together, streamline the process. And we talk about right now where it's capacity rich. Companies are willing to take a little bit more time. Eventually, it's going to become capacity constrained.
It'll change. It'll shift, right?
We need to make sure that we're helping companies build the muscle to be able to operate with confidence, layering in the technology with your policies, with the training of your people as well. So when the market shifts, you can operate with the speed you need, because you're going to have to make decisions faster. How do you do it not recklessly? So enabling folks through these various protocols, having more confidence around who these individuals are, and enabling both sides, both parties we can provide clarity around who is operating within there, and then continuously evolving the system, working to get ahead of the bad actors.
Fantastic. So Freight Nation, Truckstop takes our responsibility seriously. We're going to do everything we can do to build the critical tools with the proper data and information to protect you within our system. And then we also, because we believe in the independence and giving you control, making sure you've got control of your business, we're going to enable you with as much data as we can outside of the network so you can protect yourself outside the network. So we're going to do our responsibility, and we're going to do our best to enable you to do your responsibility. All right, so we've got about 9 or 10 minutes left. So I want you to talk about risk factors, and then we're gonna also, because that's a great product when it comes to understanding these indicators in the marketplace. And then we'll talk about some future state, because this thing's not going away anytime soon. So we want to talk about how some other thing, and then we'll wrap it up. So Shawn, let's talk about, you got layers of trust. Now we built another product, and so, but because we want to make sure we're leveraging data to everyone's best use possible.
And so as I bring this up, this is just showing you a screenshot of this. And part of this also, we're learning from situations that happen, but also I'm in constant conversations with with our customers and learning from what are they seeing as well, because they're the ones on the front lines. Yeah, exactly. Learning from that on what are they seeing, situations on that, evolving it, because you can create all kinds of signals, which then becomes noise. And then
Explain to the Freight Nation watchers and listeners, what do you mean by signals?
signals, yes. Talk about indicators.
There you go.
The
There you
spider,
go.
yes,
Indicators. Yes.
yes, the indicators of risk. What are those various things that you can look for? But you can, it's if you see a deer frozen in at night on the roadway, it's because they're blinded by the light. They can't see beyond this bright light. So if you provide all these alerts, things around it, you don't know who can I trust or not, and how do I work through this. Really, people need to know go or no go, with a carrier, with a broker, be able to know who to operate with, who I can trust. How do we simplify that and bring things together? So with risk factors, I'm extremely excited about this because we've been around for decades. We have all this data. We have also data that reaches across multiple different applications. We have a marketplace. We have our compliance platform. We have factoring. We have all these areas that we can bring this together.
Behavioral data.
Behavioral data, as well as identity. That's information around who these people are. So using this information, we're bringing it together. We're taking the information that we have on when there have been bad actors, when something has resulted in fraud. What did that look like? The story of the situation. Take that, finding common vectors, touch point. Like these are the things that happened, how it happened, and then building that in using artificial intelligence, building it together to be able to come out with. We have different types of risk. Right now, the categories we have around assets. So the equipment that they're using, the VINs, are there indicators on that? And now each of these, we have high, medium, low. And we're looking at that. Just because a VIN is operated under multiple MCs does not mean they're a bad actor. But from double brokering, there's other ways. It can be a signal, something to look at. But we're looking at the equipment that's being moved. What are some indications of how they're moving that equipment, the contact information, who they are saying they are. We're going to compare that against a variety of information resources that we have across all of our applications. And then the digital risk, this is behavioral. This is how they're connecting in, where they're connecting from. Is this expected or not expected? We're looking for anomalies. And there's some things we're going to continue to evolve this as we're spotting patterns that something's going on with this company. Is this who they say they are? Has something changed? Talk about those companies going out of business. How do we detect that? So we're going to be looking at these various indicators, and what risk factors does. There's a couple different pieces here. It's going to give you a high-level summary, overall risk. It's going to provide the risk at each of these categories, and it's going to give you the full narrative. It's going to tell you the story of the risk, what it found. So then your team, your people can make a decision. This works right now as a browser extension, a Chrome extension. So you can have it always at your fingertips. When you see an MC number, DOT number, phone number, or email, it's going to be able to bring that up. And here's everything we found about that. We also have an Outlook plugin that you can run. And if it's running and you get an email coming in, it's going to be able to take information from that, automatically bring up the risk factor panel with here are the risks we found based upon the information in that email. So excited about this. We have it for evaluating carriers. We're working on for carriers to be able to evaluate the brokers as well. Really, it's both sides because we talk about who is impacted here, and a lot of it is around cargo theft and the brokers, but also it's the carriers who get involved on the double brokering side and being impacted by taking a load from somebody who is not who they say they are. It's not the owner of that load. They are not a legitimate broker. They are a pawn in this overall situation. So we're excited about this. As Brent mentioned, the future. What's really great about risk factors is it's a highly adaptive technology. We're continuing to add more and more data sources into this. We have a full data science team working on how we can identify the right signals. And as I mentioned, it's important that we can curate the data, simplify the message back for people to be able to make quick decisions. But also, we don't want to provide false flags. We need carriers, we need trucks in the marketplace, and it's a difficult place for both parties to be operating right now. And so, I use an analogy of catching dolphins in the shark net. Like, we need to make this such that we aren't falsely identifying legitimate carriers. That bad actors make up a small fraction of who all is out there. Our goal is to expose those bad actors, surface them, make this the least hospitable place for them to be, so they move to other waters. They don't leave, but we want them to leave this industry, go somewhere else, make this an area that is no longer profitable for them to be able to operate. So other things that we're looking at here, being able to spot various signals. Talk about, they mentioned already, those who've gone out of business. How can we spot these changes in ownership? There's a lot of things we're adding in. Also, as part of the security for operating and entering our systems, being able to use the same technology as a backbone to be able to spot changes. Doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that additional screening is going to be required for you to be able to prove who you are. Our goal is ultimately, though, to make this as streamlined and fast for legitimate companies to be able to operate quickly and with confidence.
Recording the last few minutes of this podcast with Shawn Rasmor, our principal product manager on the fraud side, that helps us and helps you with helping you recognize and defeat fraud within the marketplace. And so we were talking about a brand new product that we've got out called Risk Factors, and Shawn was taking us through it. And so we stopped about at the descriptions on what are some of the indicators that Risk Factors brings to light on behavioral and identification information. So Shawn, let's kick it back off. Let's go.
Thanks, Brent. So as I was talking before about Risk Factors, we're really excited about this. The great thing with Risk Factors is it taps into the vast amount of data that we have across our Truckstop ecosystem, and then combines that with we have a data science team here at Truckstop. We use it to identify various indicators or signals for potential risky information. And so what we're showing here, this is an example of the side panel you see over here. And you can have Risk Factors installed in two different ways. You can have it as an Outlook plugin. And when it is an Outlook plugin, when you bring up an email, it is going to look at that email and bring a panel up based upon the information using the DOT, the MC, phone numbers, or email. And it's going to show you the carrier on the side. You can also have this as a browser extension within Chrome that you can right-click on a website, MC your information, or you can type in that information, again, MC, DOT, phone number, email, and bring up this profile. And so in this particular case, there's some different indicators that we're looking at. If I'm going to zoom in, there's an overall risk. So we're running this through AI-backed algorithms based on information that our security team, I mentioned before, we have this marketplace security team. We have years of information around potential indicators for suspicious information or bad actors. So we're looking at the equipment they're running, specifically the VINs that are associated with them, and identifying, are these VINs also appearing on other inspections or other information with different carriers? Does not mean that they're bad. It just means it's additional screening is recommended. Same thing with contact information, phone numbers they're using, emails they're using. Are they going through a dispatch service? And so it's just a matter, it's giving you this additional information that you can use to have a conversation with that carrier. It's important for you to understand this information and who they are, so that you have confidence in moving that freight for you. Digital risk is looking at behaviors, information around where are they accessing from, how are they accessing, things like that.
You mean like what websites they're coming in through, platforms they may be using, those sort of things, or even what country they might be?
It's the location they're coming through, what type. So are they accessing from an unexpected location? Because we're looking at, I mentioned we have all this information. We also have all this historical information. We have information on where they came from in the past. Are we expecting them to come from California if they're primarily running over on the East Coast? We're also looking at the method. Are they coming in through a VPN? And there's additional things we're going to be
All right, so
adding in.
make sure you define what a VPN is. I
Oh,
want to make
yes,
sure.
yes. Yeah, so many of us use this on at our, whether they're home or at our offices, and it virtualizes how you access. And this is one of the things I mentioned earlier, where
So a VPN is a virtual private network, right?
it's not product. And I'm trying to remember what the P was. That's why I didn't remember what the acronym meant, what the P was in there. Yes, basically it is used. It virtualizes where you're coming from, and a reason why that's important, again, does not mean it's a bad actor immediately. It's just that it's untraceable, and bad actors are using that as a way to be able to spoof where they're located. They are coming in and they are posing as a carrier operating in Minnesota. And so you're going to be looking at, are they connecting through Minnesota? Yes, they are, but it's a virtual connection. Same thing with phone numbers. This is why we will identify if they're coming through a non-fixed voice over IP, which is called a virtual phone, Google Voice, things like that. They're not traceable. Bad actors like to use non-traceable mechanisms because you can't tell where they are, and they will use that to pose as a legitimate carrier in a legitimate location. So anyway, we use these signals just to be able to elevate the potential risk with this carrier. We also, so I'm showing this from a broker's point of view, looking at a carrier. We are working on adding things. Yeah, and we're working on making this available for carriers to view brokers, because same thing, is this a double broker posing as a legitimate company trying to issue you freight? So this information, we're bringing this in. We're continuing to enhance this. Some of the things we're also doing is we look at the new trends, new things that are happening. They're wanting to hide and they're wanting to pose as legitimate carriers. I talked about carriers going out of business, selling their authorities, selling their identity. Well, bad actor, they're wanting to basically wear the clothing of this other carrier, hide within that so they can steal your load. Part of that is looking for additional signals and suspicious changes in behavior, lapses in like activity across our systems, and then all suddenly a dramatic change. These are what I call zombies. They're out there that if you are really
Zombies. Like, wait a minute, like the Day of the Dead zombies, or are you a different
yeah.
type of zombie?
If you think about this, if you look at the information, so we're looking at the information they have, and there are no signals of life. If you're actually looking at, there's no behaviors, no searching activity, other things happening, and then all of a sudden it comes back to life. And what we see is bad actors, when they strike with tenacity. They go fast. This isn't your lumbering zombie. This is your kind of World War Z. They strike. They go fast.
It's very quickly, yeah, because they know they're going to be found out eventually, so they want to get all they can very quickly, because as soon as they find out, they're going to shut it down and go use something else, right?
Yep. And so this is things that we're right now actively looking through, all the information that we have to be able to identify those actors. And there's other things out there, some things for people to be aware of to help protect themselves. If something, I mentioned this earlier, if something looks too good, and these are, I call these the anglers out there. They're baiting people to make a decision. You think about the lanternfish. They're hiding in the dark, and they have this glowing light that attracts people. So in this particular case, whether you're a carrier or a broker, if the rate looks too good, or something, or if they're overly aggressive and trying to make you make a decision quickly. And I talked about Fraud Friday. If it's before a holiday or something like that, you have the spidey sense. If something doesn't seem right, take a little bit more time, a few minutes, do some additional vetting on who they are, say, hey, let me call you back. It's okay. It's better than losing that load or taking a load and not getting paid for it. So there's all these tactics and ways they're coming in. It's important to have heightened judgment around what's going on, talk to the community, learn from each other. And we're looking to bring these things in, some other things within this system is just helping bring in community intelligence into risk factors as well. So you can have that, learn from each other.
So Shawn, we're always working on it. Truckstop. Freight Nation. We're taking the power of a scaled company who's been in the market almost 30 years, and all the data that we see, and that we can get our hands on from all at extreme depth of data, and we're putting that all together in a system where there can you yourself can notice the have access to all the indicators on whether or not this is a legitimate transaction or an illegitimate transaction. So we're leveraging all that for you in one product called Risk Factors. Shawn, that's exciting, man. What is there anything else on Risk Factors that you think is beneficial?
One of the things, I talked about these high level risks in here. What Risk Factors also gives you is a full narrative around what's behind these risks. It's not just, okay, high asset risk, high contact risk, medium digital risk. We have a full narrative around what we see to give you more information. Here's what is part of this risk. So you can go and view that. Is this really a concern for you or not? Or help you in having that conversation with that carrier or eventually with the broker. And we bring all that information to the forefront because we actually, something someone mentioned here, and I talked about our security team, the data science team, we create these tools. We first start providing that data to our security teams. They're using this. And part of that process is, one, to help our own teams be able to protect and secure the marketplace that's out there, create the most trusted network, but also to find what could be false flags. Because again, we don't want to create noise for your teams. We want to provide you with the right level of guardrails that you can use in combination with your business rules, if you're using RMIS to get together. And then we build that into this solution that then is available for your teams. But we take this incredibly seriously at Truckstop. We want you to be able to operate effectively, confidently, and quickly. Whether you're an owner or operator out there, we want you to be able to get home and be able to run your business, be with your family. And if you're a brokerage, being able to support your business, support your employer, and support your customer, the shipper. And it's all about bringing these things together, having confidence in your relationships, being able to focus in your relationships. So all the bad actors are hiding out there amongst the legitimate companies. We are working hard to expose them and provide you with the tools necessary to do that quickly, so you can move to the legitimate companies who are operating out there in the industry.
That's fantastic. So, Freight Nation, you can see why at Truckstop we take a very methodical approach to this. We have a tremendous amount of information we gather on the front end. You'd even become a part of the Truckstop network, and then when you're in there, there's things like multi-factor authentication. That's a level of security, a level of protection. You've got identity, identification. That's a level of security. It's a level of protection. Then we go all the way down into leveraging all the data that we have access to, and giving it to you where you can help make these very sound, secure decisions for yourself, because it's all about your protection in the end, so you can run your business. We want to put that into your hands. All right, Shawn. So that's the fantastic stuff. You brought us all the way through this thing and talking about the reason in the beginning. We talked about what's going on in the marketplace, why it's happening, the products in the marketplace that Truckstop can help with. Now let's talk a little bit, just for a couple minutes, and then we'll wrap this great podcast up. And on what are some of the things coming down the road. Here's why we thought we talk about this, Freight Nation, is that first off, the bad actors aren't going to give up. They're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep doing everything we can to defeat them. And so you've got to continue to, what's known in technology called iteration. You keep improving. Iteration just means you're constantly improving it all the time. Shawn, hit on a couple things, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brent. So I've already touched on how we're working with data science team, continuously evaluating new trends, new tactics, baking that into the process. So already touched on that. But this risk factors mentioned how this is a tool that you can use today, and with your teams and with yourself. We're also going to be using this not just with our security team, but as part of our security processes, baking this into screening that we have in our system. You mentioned how we have the identity, the multi-factor. We're going further. We're using risk factors as part of the backbone of entity analysis. So who are you? Do you have access to this company? Are there any risks around this company on their ability to come in? So there are things we're working on using the technology that we are making available to you for ourselves as well.
Yeah. So Freight Nation, when Shawn says entity, he means a business, an individual business. So this is sort of like, this is data speak on things. An entity is just one individual business. So just keep going, Shawn. What's up? What's one more? What's one more?
So part of this also working on making this information available to you for your systems. So a lot of this, we look at the risk factors and things at the end user level, but you may be operating through a third-party application, a transportation management system, making the information available to your applications, working on ways of when there are events, pushing that information immediately to your application. So if your people are working in that third-party system, they're informed when we're made aware of situations. We have event-driven communication directly to those applications. So then the key thing here is, I mentioned in the very beginning, fraud happens there's multiple touch points. It's wherever your people are. So it's critical for us when we're providing solutions that we're providing solutions to your people where your people operate. That's why we have the extension, we have the Outlook plugin, but we also want to make sure we're pushing information directly to your applications. We're also making it available within our applications if you happen to be using our systems. So we want your teams to be protected, have confidence, being able to operate effectively and quickly.
Wow. Fantastic stuff. All right, Freight Nation. This is why we have a Shawn Rasmor. All right, because as you can tell by just going through this thing, it's complicated, it's layered. And when you have bad actors out there continuing to morph and morph and morph and become somebody else and become somebody else, and then they run into the dark, someone has got to be there to shine the light on them. And that's what Truckstop's here for. We've been doing this since 1995, helping carriers, helping brokers, and helping shippers run this freight marketplace so you can create a successful business, and so American can get what they need with their freight every single day. Shawn, thanks a lot for being on Freight Nation today, and thanks a lot for everything you do for Truckstop and protecting carriers and brokers and shippers.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, Freight Nation, that's a wrap. What a fun episode. I certainly hope you follow it all the way through the end and then go back and forth, study this. Take the time to prepare yourself. It is your business. It's in your hands, and it's up to you to make it successful. We just want to be here to help you no matter what. So thanks again for being on Freight Nation. But did you have one other thing, Shawn?
Yeah, I want to reiterate, this requires everybody to be extra vigilant. I mentioned at the very beginning, you hit on it there. It's make sure everybody in your company, or if you're a company of one, educate yourself. Be on top of this. Always be thinking. And technology providers, the people, everyone, people, processes, technology, all the pieces together. We're all in this. We are here to help you, and we just need to keep working, keep the roads moving. So thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate this.
You're welcome. See what I mean, Freight Nation? He's like the honey badger, man. He doesn't give up. He's going to keep fighting for you no matter what. Shawn's the best. Well, Freight Nation, thanks a lot for being a part, and thanks for watching and listening today. And and we'll catch you on the next one. And don't forget, as we like to say, Freight Nation, don't forget to work hard, to be kind, and stay humble. We'll catch you the next time, Freight Nation. On behalf of the Truckstop team, thanks for listening to this episode of Freight Nation. To find out more about the show, head to truckstop.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until then, keep on trucking and exploring the open roads with Freight Nation, a trucking podcast.